Funding and moral support for this broadcast is brought to you by the Rodriguez Foundation and from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hey VC, this episode of Spotlight is going to be about Rudy Van Gelder, the sound engineer. He was born in 1924 in New Jersey, and his love for jazz music and also sound recording equipment began at a very young age.
I was in school in Philadelphia, and one day my friends and I went down into downtown Philly to a radio station. I think it was WCAU in Philadelphia, and went into the control room, looked around, and I had a very strong feeling that this is the kind of thing I wanted to do rather than what I was studying for.
While being an optometrist during the day, Rudy would often come home and record people in a makeshift studio that he had set up in his parents' house in Hackensack, New Jersey.
Is this your place? No, I live with my mom. Just living the dream. Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf! What is she doing? I never know what she's doing back there.
In all seriousness, though, he had a really nice setup there in the living room of his parents' house in Hackensack, New Jersey. He had created these alcoves in different spots in the house or in the living room to create some sound dampening, and had done several little different tweaks to really make it a recordable room. And also had, at the far end of the living room, had built a control room. So he was able to, with soundproof glass, was able to, treat it like a normal recording studio. It just looked like a living room. So there were blinds. You can often see them in Francis Wolff's pictures. The blinds and the lamps in the background and stuff like that looks like they're just recording in a living room, which they are. But it was just this living room that had been turned into a recording studio, basically. But his parents were able to do that. I think they were renovating that house anyway, and because they owned, I think, another property. These recordings were getting more and more popular, and eventually someone wanted to record a baritone saxophone player by the name of Gil Mele.
A tenor, he was a baritone player by the name of Gil Mele. So he had a little band, and I recorded him for Gus. And Alfred heard this thing, and he liked it. He had put it out. It was a 10-inch LP, and Alfred put it out, and then apparently he liked, this was before I knew him, Alfred did, and he wanted to make another one. Time came to make another record. So at that time, Alfred was recording at New York at WOR in their studio, and he took it to the engineer and played the record for him and said, look, I want to make another record to sound like this. And the engineer said, I can't do that. You better take it to the guy who made it. And Alfred did exactly that. Came to me. This was before Prestige, too. And came to me and he said, let's make another record that sounds like this. I said, okay, no problem. When do you want to do it? So I wrote it in a book. And they came in, and that was the first time I met Alfred. And I just stayed there to the end.
He was able to get a very distinct sound from that room that other people weren't able to get from other studios. The sound that he gets in his recording methods are debated. They're a little controversial. There are some sound engineers, some mastering, experts such as Steve Hoffman, who have often said that, he wasn't a very good sound engineer at all. He would often use compression and also putting mics way too close together. And then another big one was how he recorded the piano. I guess he would wrap a microphone in cloth and stick it in one of the harps of the piano, and that's how he recorded. So, and from listening to some recordings of his, you can tell that, or listen, and the piano sounds kind of muffled, like it's underneath something. And that's kind of what people talk about, is that it almost sounds like you're underneath the piano listening to it, rather than it sounding clear. It sounds muffled. And I don't know if that brought warmth to it and he liked that sound, or if he just didn't know how to really do it, if he wasn't understanding how to record a piano. The sound that he actually gives Miles Davis on his trumpet, Miles tries to take that over to Columbia and have those sound engineers duplicate what Rudy did. And so it's a sound that some musicians like and some others don't. Charles Mingus was not a fan of Rudy Van Gelder. He often said that Rudy Van Gelder would change the sound of instruments. He didn't like how he changed people's sound, because your sound is your sound, and that's what sets you apart from others. But Rudy was changing and manipulating people's sound by where he placed the microphone, or what he did with the sound in the control room, or even mastering. The thing is, though, if you're a fan of jazz, and if you're a fan of jazz from 1954, 1953 to late 60s, mid to late 60s, you're almost a fan of the Rudy Van Gelder sound, because if you're saying that his sound wasn't good and it sounded different from other people's, that's a distinct sound, right? And so if he's giving that sound to all these recordings during this time, and those are the recordings that people go back to and they really love and they love listening to, then there's something about that that people love. Whether it's viewed as bad or viewed as good, it doesn't matter. People are going back to those recordings, and yes, it is about the musicianship, but it's also, I would think that it's also about that sound that you're getting, that distinct, different sound you're getting. And he recorded for Blue Note, Prestige, Impulse, Savoy, all these different contemporary, Pacific, all these different labels. On a blog that I was reading, or a article, the person is listing all of his recordings, and some of them he can't list because they were half recordings. Like half of it was maybe mastered by Rudy, not recorded by Rudy, or vice versa. Maybe it was mastered by someone else, recorded by Rudy, or maybe half of it was recorded by Rudy, half of it was recorded by someone else, something like that. So he didn't have all those recordings in there, but the ones that Rudy did all of himself, recorded and mastered, there's 939 recordings. Over the span of this time, so many albums. All those are recorded by Rudy, and there's just tons. He is the sound of jazz in that time. You can't get away from him. So if you love jazz in that time, then you love Rudy Van Gelder's recording. He didn't mess it up, obviously, if you're listening to it, and if you love that recording. I'm sure that when you talk to people like Steve Hoffman, or he's gonna pick apart and go, I like that. I like the way he recorded the trumpets and the saxophones, but I don't like the way he recorded the piano. And that's fine. You can pick apart any recording, I'm sure, and go, that could sound better and that could sound better. Art is never finished. So it's debated, and I don't think you can really say that he's not important. Alfred Lion, hearing that sound, hearing other people's sound, and going, I like that. That's important. And Alfred knowing Alfred having that same ear that would be in the studio listening to the musicians and going, that's not the right take, you know. And then they often would say that Alfred and Francis Wolff would be dancing around while they were playing, you know, and then they would know that that was the take that they needed to grab. So they very much knew what sound they were going for, and liked Rudy's sound. So you can't write him off, you know, at all. Whether he's a good sound engineer or he did things a little awkward and different, you have to respect him. Still, during this whole time, he's an optometrist from 1953 when he starts recording to 1959. 1959 is when he retires from being an optometrist, you know. So all those years, 6 years of recording, he's being an optometrist during the day and then coming home and recording for all these different labels, all these different musicians, and having people come to his living room to record records that are going to change the world, that are going to change the sound of jazz.
To describe a day while I was practicing optometry, and that went on for 13 years, I would go to the office during the day, and then if I had something scheduled at night, I would come back and record at night. If it was Wednesday, Prestige would come in with Miles Davis, and I'd record during the day. And then, of course, there was the weekends. It was really difficult. Some days I'd have to skip the office, and some days I couldn't do sessions every day, but the pressure was there to do that. It got so busy that I had to assign each label its own day. So no matter what happened, they would come in that day. And that worked for quite a while, actually, because otherwise it was everybody, I had to balance people's schedule, the musicians and so forth. So what happened, I would assign Monday, for example, to Savoy, Tuesday to Vox, Wednesday to Prestige. And Vox, I remember one time had 2 days a week. And then Alfred for Blue Note, he would get Friday. And every Saturday I got a headache.
Eventually, he leaves Hackensack, New Jersey, and moves to Englewood Cliffs and has a purpose-built studio. The studio roof is built in Portland, Oregon. He has something custom built and shipped from Portland to New Jersey. It's a 39-foot high beam roof, and it's amazing. You know, it looks like a church. You know, and I think that's what people used to say. It felt very spiritual going in there, creating this music that was going to impact the world and bring their sound to life.
It was just not myself, but the musicians dealing with a larger space and what they were used to and their reaction to that, some plus, some minus. But it was a different experience altogether. But none of that was really a surprise. I mean, when I built the studio, I thought, well, if it doesn't sound right, I can change it. I'll do things on the interior and so forth to change the sound, but it never happened. And I guess that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Another thing that Rudy did was he would try and hide the microphones or the instrumentation that he was using to record. So he would really nice microphones he would wrap in or take them out of their casing and put them in a Shure audio or sound casing to make them look cheaper or, you know, not as good, and then people would just not know how he was getting that great sound. So he would do different little stuff like that to try and keep people from stealing his secrets. Another thing is that he wouldn't allow anyone else to move a microphone or touch anything, probably in the control room especially, but even out in the studio where the musicians were, they couldn't fix their mics or adjust their mics. He would do that himself. It was kind of like a union job or something. And his recording doesn't stop there in 1967. That's just when he stops recording for Blue Note. He records all the way up until 2016. His last recording was for the Jimmy Cobb Trio. on June of 2016, and then he passes away 2 months later in August. So all the way up until the time he passes away, he's recording all these different sessions. His most prolific time obviously was during that period between the 50s and the 60s, but he goes way past that and keeps on recording because people love his sound. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Rudy Van Gelder. He's a really special person in the jazz community, in the jazz lineage, and just in recording in general. I think he's really well known for that purpose, for that time, for those reasons, for those recordings. So thank you very much for watching. If you like this, please subscribe, like my video, comment, whatever you want to do. Hit the little bell for notifications if you want those. But yeah, come back for more. There's going to be more Spotlight. I hope to keep this series going for a long time. Thank you so much. Bye. Hey VC, just wanted to let you know that I'm probably going to be switching these to be a bi-weekly series, the Spotlight series, instead of a weekly. It's just beginning to be a lot of work. I'm a video editor in my regular job. I'm also taking on some side work right now to just help my family out during this time with more money. So I'm editing that as well, and then this is on top of all that. So, and I'm trying to make these really good. So I'm going to probably switch it to be more of a bi-weekly thing. I've been introducing these weekly, but we're going to switch that up and see if that can help alleviate some pressure, some time pressure. So anyway, this is my editing space here. I use Adobe Premiere, some After Effects sometimes to create some things. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying it, and stay tuned. Thank you so much. Bye.